Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fate.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph, childress.
DJ Khaled, you know the DJ Khaled guy?
Hansbrough up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastor.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
They have no swag. They have no nothing.
Terrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Terrence Oglesby, Tyler Hansbrough. I'm here with a couple of ACC legends. And yes, I call Terrence Oglesby a legend. I don't know what got into me. It must be a little bit of that Brown stuff. We're live on SiriusXM channel 84. We're streaming over on Stadium. Of course, we are live on YouTube and X. Make sure to jump in the chat, ask us some questions, fire away. We are here for the next hour. We got to talk about the Fighting Illini, who blew, I think it was a 9-point lead with 2.5 minutes left to lose at Penn State. That more or less put the dagger in their Big Ten title hopes. We're going to break down this Kentucky game whenever that goes final, and we have to talk about Duke. Guys, you are ACC guys. Duke might officially be back. They might officially be awesome again. But before we do all of that, the game of the night took place down in Tuscaloosa in Coleman Coliseum. I was there on Saturday. I didn't see a game anywhere as good as the game that we saw tonight. Alabama 98, Florida 93 in overtime. Alabama was down by as many as 9 points in the second half, but they found a way to get it going. They found a way to get a win. They got it to the extra period, and they won by 5. T.O., I'm going to start with you on this one. Aaron Estrada, 20 points, 8 boards, 8 assists. Mark Sear, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists. Grant Nelson, 22.6 blocks. Every time I watch this Alabama team play, I get more and more impressed by the talent they have offensively. We still have the questions about the defensive end of the floor, but what about this Alabama group stands out to you the most? How good can this team be?
Their ability to score. But I'll say this, guys, it looked like a game I would have loved to have played in. There was no defense whatsoever. Nobody could guard the ball, and you were just hoping that a big 6'10" guy or 7-footer, either in Grant Nelson or Micah Handlockton, was going to be able to block shots. Neither team was defending worth anything. So I know it was 98-93. I know they went into overtime, but this was a fun game if you were an offensive player. And let's be honest, if neither team's going to defend, neither team's going to go that far in the tournament, because the basket has a lid on it at times in the NCAA tournament. You got to find other ways to win. And I'm not sure that either team really can. That's kind of a scary thing for me. Both teams have talent. Both teams can put up 110 on a given night. But it's a matter of, are you able to get stops? But what I will say, really impressed by what Florida is able to do so quickly, because look, they finally they got their They got their players right. They picked the right guys. I think Micah Handlockton has been terrific. Three shots, and it ends up with 13 boards, altered many more than the 3 blocks that he had. It's a talented bunch of guys. And Tyrese Samuel, we talked about him for a couple of years. When he was at Seton Hall, I was like, man, that kid's talented. Well, he just continues to prove that. They're good. It's a tough place to play at Alabama. And, you lose on the road in the SEC. I hate to even say it like that, because that sounds like coach speak, but that's the truth. It's tough to win on the road.
It's hard to win. Do we have Matt McCall on here tonight, or is this Terrence Oglesby? Tyler, what do you make of Alabama's performance, and where do they – I mean, look, they're in first place in the SEC right now. Where do you – is that deserved? Are they the best team in that league?
I don't really believe in Alabama. Are they the best team? Maybe right now, but do they have the most potential? I don't think so. But to me, when I watch the game, I do, I've criticized Alabama when they lost at Auburn, because I felt like they just kind of out-controlled physicality and the rebounding. But tonight, when I look at the game, they out-rebounded Florida by 10, and also they had more points in the paint. I think, they outscored them in the paint by 16 points. So to me, it looked like Alabama played a lot more aggressive and really took it to Florida and got a lot of things out in transition and inside, which is crucial. But to T.O.'s point, you've got to be able to play defense to really win. And ugly games, you're going to have them in the tournament. You got to be able to rely on your defense and your rebounding come tournament time. So that's where I'd have a little, suspicions with Alabama on that.
Guys, I'm not I'm not really a great bettor. I think you can tell by the number of pick of the days that I've had lose consecutively. I think we're at about 6 straight losses on our BetMGM special. It's great for our sponsor. BetMGM is such a big fan of me because I keep telling people how to lose money to them.
Fade
I think
Dauster.
the
Fade
easiest
Dauster.
Yeah, fade Dauster. I think the easiest bet I ever could have won is that T.O. would have loved a game where everybody got up and down, shot up a bunch of threes, and nobody played any defense, and that Tyler Hansbrough does not like the team in Alabama that doesn't have a Haas on the block that you could throw the ball into. That was the most obvious pick that I think anybody could have ever made. Here's my thing with Alabama. I feel like, and T.O., correct me if I'm wrong here, we're not talking enough about Mark Sears. We talk about Jamal Shead and how good he was on Monday. Tristan Newton was awesome last night in the loss to Creighton. Tyler Kolek has 18 assists tonight, and there's still time left in that game at DePaul, so I don't know if it counts if it's at DePaul, but it's at DePaul. We've seen some of these other point guards, like Isaiah Stevens is playing right now on CBS Sports Network against New Mexico. Where does Mark Sears fall into that conversation for you? Because I do feel like after seeing him in person on Saturday, there's so much Jalen Brunson in his game, and he's not quite at that level, but the way that he can absorb contact, the way he gets to his left hand, the way he finishes around the basket, I really, really like that dude's game.
Yeah, he impacts the game on so many levels. I mean, anytime, like, let's be honest, like the Alabama offense is geared for playmakers like him, so that's certainly going to help things. But I would put him in the top 10 as far as point guards in the country right now, and there's a lot of really good point guards. We kind of underestimated that group coming in. But Mark Sears is in there. Isaiah Stevens is in there. There's several around the country. It's just a matter of finding kind of what that order is. But he's a terrific player. And here's the crazy thing: the fact that he was hooping at Ohio and then comes down to Alabama. Like, you want to talk about being able to identify talent? How about Bowles at Ohio before anybody figured it out, and then has a good year, comes down to Alabama and continues to be good. It's just, guys, let's be honest. It comes back to their defense. And if they had even more shot making, they were getting open looks consistently. If they had even more shot making, they might have scored 140. Like, a lot of easy looks. But happy to see that, he's able to impact the game so much. Grant Nelson at 9 of 14 from the field, 6 blocks, 8 boards. He's also a huge impact guy. But Mark Sears, we've kind of known that. I feel like that's one of the things about him. We almost know too much about him, if that makes sense. Like, we know he's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about how good that Ohio team was that had Mark Sears on it, because he wasn't even the starting point guard. Jason Preston was. You guys remember Jason Preston, 2nd-round pick, upset Virginia in the first round of the 2021 NCAA tournament. All right, last thing I want to get to on Florida is they started out the SEC season 1-3. As of January 16th, they were 11-6 overall. They've won 7 out of 9, but those 2 losses at Texas A&M in a game where they blew an 11-point lead and lost by 1, and at Alabama, a game where they blew a 9-point second-half lead and lost by 5 in overtime. They're basically 2 possessions away, and I know it's not how it works, but just kind of go along with me, Tyler. They're 2 possessions away from being on a 9-game winning streak and sitting here at 10-3 in the SEC. I got a feeling this is going to be a team that is going to be underseeded when you get to March, and a team that we're going to want to keep an eye on because I feel like they have a chance to be able to make a run. When you can score the way they can score, if they get it going, they can play with anybody.
Yeah, I think kind of like what T.O. mentioned is they've got to turn it up a little bit defensively, and they've got to be able to make stops because when it gets tournament time, even if you are one of these lower seeds or higher seeds, everything is a little uncomfortable because you're not playing on regular court. You're at a neutral site. So, yeah, I mean, you've got to be able to rely on your defense, and I like to include rebounding in that just because I think controlling the boards seems kind of like an underrated aspect now. But just looking at their up-and-coming games, they only have 2 quad 1 games left, and then they play Vanderbilt, which is quad 4. You cannot lose that. And then you have the quad 3 against Missouri, and then you play Vanderbilt again. So, they do have a few games where if you lose, it can drastically hurt you, and they'll only have a few opportunities to really have some big wins coming up soon.
Yeah, well, Rob Dillingham is doing some crazy Rob Dillingham stuff right now.
I'm a little shocked that Florida doesn't get up the line a little more because they have such a good shot blocker behind everything and hand locked in. If that makes sense. Like, they don't steal the basketball. Mm-hmm. Non-steal percentage, 5.7%, good for 359th in college basketball. Like, I understand that they're wanting to contest threes or leave people there. They don't even come close to getting steals. So I understand playing the percentages, this, that, and the third. But when you have an elite rim protector like that, it's pretty. I'm kind of curious why you wouldn't do that more. I'll ask Todd next time I see him. But
yeah, I think it's if you look at their guards, Walter Clayton and Zion Poland, it's not like you have the longest, most athletic dudes in that backcourt. So maybe that has something to do with it. But yeah, that's a good point. All right, we got to pivot. We got to talk about Illinois. We got to get to this. I hope our producer Trevor Valise is not tuned in right now because this is not the kind of thing that he's going to want to hear. Tyler, I know you are such a big fan of the Illini and their fans. They blow a 9-point lead with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. They lose on the road. Coleman Hawkins, who is my guy, I love this guy's trolling ability. He is elite when it comes to the internet. He is maybe not elite when it comes to some of the consistency and decision-making in crunch time. Missed 2 free throws that could have put them up by 4 with 18 seconds left, and then fouls a 3-point shooter with 4 seconds left on the clock. He steps to the line. I believe it was Zach Hicks. Knocks down all 3 of them, and Penn State goes on and beats Illinois 90-89. This is a red flag. When you get 35 out of Terrence Shannon and you lose on the road to a Penn State team that is still under 500 without their leading scorer who was just booted off the team, Tyler, that doesn't seem like a good sign to me.
Yeah, and so basically this game kind of comes down to what I've been saying all along, and it comes down to being disciplined and be able to execute under pressure and when things get tight. This is why I've said all along that I haven't been a true believer in Illinois. And I did say that I think Illinois has the capability to go on a run with Terrence Shannon. When he left the team, I said there's no way this team could really, has a shot to do anything, without him. But, I do like Coleman Hawkins and Terrence Shannon just because I think Shannon has the ability to kind of go off, and he is a great guard. And Coleman Hawkins is definitely talented and can do a lot of different things. But to me, this team has to play better disciplined basketball. You can't foul a guy shooting a 3, kind of that heave late in the game, desperation shot, and you put them at the free throw line to pretty much, give them the lead, Penn State. So, they went stale and they struggled to find ways to score late in the game, and they didn't execute.
T.O., here's my take on it, right? And tell me if you think this is crazy. I think they have the firepower to be ahead and compete with and play with and look for about 38 minutes like the best team in college basketball. And I think that tonight is a perfect example of what happens when you don't necessarily have a true point guard on the roster. You make some turnovers, you miss some free throws, you make some poor decisions down the stretch. I think that's just kind of they can hang with anybody, and then when it comes to winning time, when it comes to nut cutting time, maybe you see situations like this. Is that crazy?
No, I mean they're going to look great when they don't turn the ball over and they're playing really well in isolation. That's when they're really good. The problem is you have 18 turnovers against the team today in Penn State who thrives in that manner. That can't happen. And not only that, they go on a 13-2 run in the last 2.5 minutes of the game, Penn State, in order to win this game. A big momentum win for Penn State, so good for them for that. But the concern for the Illini this year has been point guard play. And I think a lot of people have said that. A lot of people said the same thing. I kind of tend to shy away from that because I think there's enough individual playmaking on that team in order to make up for that. But when it comes to, like Tyler said, nut cutting time, you got to have somebody that's going to take the ball, relax your troops, get you in what you're supposed to do, and find ways to get good shots within what you're doing, and at least waste some clock and get a good look. Not able to do that towards the end. 13-2 run to close on the road. I understand Penn State's a hard place to play, but you have to be disciplined. You can't turn the ball over. They turn the ball over a ton, and they foul from beyond the arc. So the worst thing you can do is let the other team score with the clock stopped. That's the worst. So discipline at the end is huge.
All right, we got about 30 seconds each here. I want you guys to both weigh on this. T.O., we'll go to you first.
Okay.
We just saw Purdue lose on the road at Ohio State, and our reaction was kind of like, look, it's going to happen. It's the road, new coach bounce, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff, right? Then we see UConn lose on the road at Creighton, and it's, we come up with these excuses, these these things where, oh, wow, Kentucky just lost on an incredible buzzer beater. We're going to get to that in a second on the other side of this break. We saw Illinois lose on the road, and we didn't think too much about it. What do you make of this Illinois loss on the road, T.O.?
Losses on the road in conference happen, but it's the manner in which it happened today. And I'm sitting here trying to watch this, but it's the manner in which they lost today, which is what's scary, and that's the 18 turnovers. You're able to do that. It's discipline. And here's the thing, 18 turnovers, they can still win if they don't foul at the end of the game too. So they can play poorly, still be in the game. But like I said, it's hard to win on the road. It's hard to get wins. But it's more the manner in which they lost today, which is worrisome.
Yeah. Tyler?
I'm not a big fan of the ISO ball, and the reason I say that is because when it gets critical late in the game, you've got to do something to get a bucket. You got to have sets, and you got to have plays that you run that you know you can score on. Penn State just turned it up a little bit defensively, and they full court pressed them. Illinois looked like they'd never seen a press before in their life, and they turned it over and gave the game to Penn State. You got to be able to execute down the stretch.
Yeah. Well, listen, on the other side of this break, we are going to talk about Duke's run and how good they've been lately, and we have to talk about the buzzer beater that we just saw happen down in Baton Rouge coming up next. What's going on, guys? Before we get back to the show, I need to let you all know about the Field of 68 Daily, an all-encompassing college basketball newsletter that arrives in your inbox, you guessed it, daily. For less than $1 a week, you'll wake up every morning to more than 1,500 words detailing everything that you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. From the notable mid-major upsets to the stars that are out injured to the breakout performances that only our team of college basketball junkies watched. The Daily is edited and produced by Mike Miller, who spent more than 2 decades running NBC's digital written content, and is subscribed by more than half of the Division I coaching staffs, the biggest names in college basketball media, and the agents that work as power brokers in the sport. For just $50 for the year, you get access to the same information that the insiders get. And before we get you back to your regularly scheduled Field of 68 content, let me tell you guys about the Field of 68 merch store. Head over to field68.shop for officially branded Field of 68 apparel. Whether you're supporting your favorite team in the student section or from the couch, there is no better way to gear up than the latest from the Field of 68. The best thing I can say about our merch is the quality of the product. Anyone that has ever worn a t-shirt knows how frustrating it is when the neck gets all stretched out and the bottom of the shirt starts looking like the bottom of bell-bottom jeans. And there's nothing worse than a hoodie that loses its snugness that makes it such a perfect way to stay warm during the cold winter weather. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the college basketball fan in your life, everything you need is at the Field of 68.shop. Welcome back to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Tyler Hansbrough. I have Terrence Oglesby. We're live on Sirius XM channel 84. We're also live over on Stadium. Make sure you join Stadium's College Hoops Championship Tickets Sweepstakes for a chance to win 2 tickets to the semifinals and final in Phoenix, Arizona on April 6th and April 8th. Go to the link in the description below and enter for a chance to win. We also want to hear from you. Record and upload a video at that same link. It is watchstadium.com/college hoops sweeps with your predictions for the 4 teams that will play in Arizona for a chance to be featured on an episode of Goodman versus Gottlieb over on Stadium. Gentlemen, we just saw one of the craziest endings that we've seen in college basketball this season. Kentucky down on the road. Robert Dillingham gets a big bucket. They go up 74-73 at the other end. You get a block shot from Igneso. You get a save from Trey Hannibal, and you get a tip in at the buzzer from Tyrell Ward. 75 LSU, 74 Kentucky. Terrence Oglesby, what do you make of this loss for the Wildcats?
A big win for LSU, first and foremost. Secondly, it's always good when you're just around the basketball. You're just around the basketball, good things are going to happen, and that's what happened today. And Yesu was actually out of the play. His big butt should have been in towards the play. It was a Duke Thiero that came over and blocked the shot. Big fella, you got to get in and protect the rim, especially until the horn goes off. Like, that's one that you can't have. That obviously that the game doesn't come down to one possession. It's not all his fault, but that's tough. You have to play till the buzzer, and you have to, if you're the big, you at least got to get around the rim just in case something like this happens. But big win for Coach McMahon. Happy for him. Those guys have gotten out to a mediocre start. LSU 14-12, 6-7. As many teams from the SEC as are on the bubble, we might as well put them on the bubble too. Why not?
Tyler.
We have every SEC team on the bubble. We have every SEC team on the bubble. Might as well just throw them in there.
All right, do it. Put LSU on the bubble. We'll do it. I'll let the
On the
Fielding
bubble.
the 68 guys know for Friday's show. Prior to the second half tonight, Kentucky gave up 48 points in the second half. All of those defensive issues that we had seen for the majority of the season, after spending 5 halves of basketball holding opponents to under 34 points against Ole Miss, against Auburn, and in the first half against LSU, 48 points in the second half for the Tigers. I think I don't even know how to ask this. We ask this question every time. Where do you stand on Kentucky? Where do you stand on their defense? If this is going to keep being a thing, how often are we going to have this conversation before something gets fixed?
This doesn't change my opinion of Kentucky. I've said that they're young. Young guys, at times struggle on the road, and I do think that Kentucky has improved defensively. They showed that against Auburn. But I'm with T.O. on this. If you're a big guy, you've got to protect the rim around that time. That's a crucial play. But I've always said that the ceiling for Kentucky is high. They're going to lose on the road. And, like a lot of other teams, they're going to have to bring it defensively. They're going to have to make a commitment to being consistent defensively if they want to make a deep tournament run in March would be what they need to stride towards. And they've shown signs of that. But obviously this was, like T.O. said, a good win for LSU, and it's a bad loss for Kentucky. No other way to put it.
Yeah, it's another road loss, which is a consistent theme that we've seen this season. 4 ranked teams going into an opposing team's building and taking a loss. And I will say this, guys. I do think that it is fair to say that as a team is trying to find a way to improve something as poor as what Kentucky's defense was earlier in the year, that it is a very
what's
difficult
happening to DJ Wagner. Like, what's going on with DJ Wagner? Why is he still starting? Why is that pressure still there? Why does Cal have him in the starting lineup? 0 for 5, 0 for 2. Like, at what point is it like, hey, we're going to take this bullet and we're going to let Reed start, or we're going to let Dillingham start? Dillingham was terrific tonight. And here's the thing: hey, Cal, we're not attacking your players. We're attacking your decision to keep starting certain players. We're not attacking him. Like that's the thing. Like, it's your responsibility to put your guys in the best position to have success. And DJ Wagner, his best position to have success is off the bench. We're not attacking DJ. We're attacking you with that decision making. So, like, that to me, like, I'm a Cal fan, kinda. Like, I've been critical of him before. I just get over this notion of, hey, don't attack my players, attack me. Okay, fine. Well, we can do that if you want us to, because you're still starting DJ Wagner, who obviously would be better suited to see the flow of the game before just starting out and really having a hard go of it. And maybe it's time to bring him off the bench, because he might feel better about where he's at. You play Reed Sheppard, who again had 5 steals, played his role, 2 assists, 2 boards, 7 points, gets you in your offense, does a lot of good things. Maybe try something different. As far as that's concerned, I love that they're defending at a high level. I think that's really the key to what they're going to do. But you have to find somebody else to at least generate some sort of offense at the guard spot besides Antonio Reeves, because DJ can be a lightning rod off the bench at this point, play really good defense, and maybe find his offense through a little bit more sporadic minutes. So there's that. I'm just confused at why he's still in the starting lineup.
No, look, you're right, and this is definitely a conversation that people have been having about Kentucky. I don't think the issue is necessarily DJ Wagner starting as much as it is why Justin Edwards. Otherwise, why Justin Edwards is still in the starting lineup. Like, I think you need to find a way to get Reed Sheppard into that starting lineup. It's one of those two has to come off the bench in place of Reed Sheppard. And if it was me, I would probably have it be Justin Edwards that was coming off the bench. I just like Reed Sheppard more as like the secondary point guard, even if DJ Wagner is out there and he's not playing his best. And I also like Dillingham coming off the bench because he is so he can run so hot and cold, right? I like him as the instant offense. Okay, we feel like we've settled into this game. It's 8-8 at the under 16 timeout, and you bring Dilly in, and all of a sudden he rips off 10 in a row in like 2 minutes. Right? I just love the idea of him as a sixth man. I think he kind of is built for that role. But Reed Sheppard not starting makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's a problem.
to argue your point, Edwards provides a lot of switchability on the other end of the floor. So, like, I understand the value of keeping him in there. Like, DJ, I just feel like if he comes in, I don't know how many minutes he played today, but if he comes in and, like, plays 15 to 18 minutes and he just goes full throttle, gives 100% at everything, picks up full court, there's other ways to find your offense. There's other ways to find, like, what you're doing. I feel bad because he's still getting, like, all these minutes, and it's just – I think it might be doing a disservice to him and not giving him an opportunity to kind of find himself in a different way. Does that make sense?
Well, that's what we talked about at the start of the year, right? The big question was going to be with this group navigating the relationships that are involved with some of the freshmen if they aren't the best freshmen. Obviously, Cal has known DJ Wagner, his father, and his grandfather for a long, long time, right? And the connection with Aaron Bradshaw and the agency that he is affiliated with, Clutch and Rich Paul, is something where I don't think Cal wants to burn that bridge after everything that happened with Chris Livingston this past draft cycle, right? So that's always was going to be the thing that we were circling with this Kentucky team as one of the most difficult things to try to figure. Like that's a needle that he's got to thread, and I think he's having a tough time threading that needle. All right, I want to pivot to Duke because I do think we need to talk about Duke at this point. They are on an impressive run. I have Tyler Hansbrough on here, who is the noted Duke aficionado on the field of 68, probably the Duke expert, maybe the Duke favorite. I think the Duke fans love him more than anybody else. My favorite part about tonight, and I was really excited about this, is that we get to have Tyler come on here and talk about Illinois, have him talk about Kentucky, and now we're going to put him in a spot where he's got to talk about Duke. And, it's his three favorite programs in college basketball at this point. But they go on the road. They play Miami. They beat him by 29. It's coming off of a double. It was a 9-point win, but they were up double digits most of the half at Florida State. They have won 5 in a row. They've won 8 out of 9, and since their loss to Georgia Tech to open ACC play, they have won 16 of their last 18 games. Jared McCain's starting to figure it out. Tyrese Proctor is coming off the bench and seems like he has accepted that role. Jeremy Roach looks like he's healthy again, and it kind of feels like this Duke team is peaking at a time that you want to be peaking, and that feels like a scary proposition with the talent that they have, Tyler.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of last year. Late in the year, they were kind of peaking in the same way. But when I look at Duke, I still said early on in the year, I don't think that they were playing to the potential that this roster provides them. And I think Jared McCain is a guy who, to me, has taken a real big step. And I know he didn't have a huge game against Miami tonight, but the games previous, he's kind of broken out and kind of played unbelievable. I saw him late in the Smith Center when my Tar Heels smacked him in the Dean Dome. He kind of gave them a boost and a little lift. But also, Jeremy Roach doesn't get a lot of credit, but he's a guy who's constantly playing well for them, been a little consistent all year. He's a veteran player. I like him. My question with Duke is, can they handle physicality? Filipowski, to me, isn't a physical, bang it down low big. He's more of a dynamic stretch 4 outside big, and I don't see them having much of a rim protector inside. So to me, that's what where a lot of teams can give them issues, especially when my Tar Heels and Armando Bacot just controlled the game inside with physicality and dominated from that way. But that's where Duke is suspect. But Duke has a lot of talent on this roster, and I do think that they haven't reached their potential, and they have a high ceiling. I think they could go on a run come March.
Yeah. T.O., I know you have strong feelings about this Duke team specifically, and I'm just kind of like, where do you stand on it? Go ahead.
Yeah, they're huge. 1, 2. Sorry, let me straighten up here. 2, dude, it's an unselfish bunch. Like, it's a fun bunch to watch. Nobody shot more than 10 shots from the field. Like, sure, you're going to have a couple extra free throws, this, that, and a third, but what I will say, Norchad Omier, 3 of 14, you don't hold him down without being physical. So while they don't have that rim protector, they do have some bigger bodies that if you're able to guard on the floor and be physical on the floor, like you're going to be able to hold opposing bigs down. And I actually think what Mark Mitchell has been able to do as far as an off-ball defender, his activity level, he changes things for them. And this is my kind of my last thing about Duke, because I feel like I've said it all the time, but like John Shire is unafraid of making changes even when his perceived best players are struggling. Like he did it last year, wherever I can't remember the exact situation, where they were switching up some lineups to try to make it the best that they could do. They put
They
Proctor
brought
at the
Derek Lively and Tariq Whitehead off the bench. They brought the
Yeah.
number 1 and number 2 recruits in the country off the bench.
Right, and not only that, they switched positions with Roach and Proctor and let Proctor initiate and Roach be the 2. And then this year, they haven't found a really good synergy or whatever. I hate that word, but people use it all the time. They haven't found a really good synergy between Proctor and the rest of the guards. So what do? They bring him off the bench, let him find a different role, let him go against second unit guys, and all of a sudden he starts to find his productivity. Like, it's a good Duke team, and offensively gifted Duke team. Guys that can score, guys that move the ball, guys that are unselfish. And I mean, let's be honest, 19 assists, and I would assume on the road at Miami, they weren't given all of those 2 dribble assists. So it's a team that offensively, like, pretty good. It's a matter of if they're going to be offensively good enough come tournament time and get enough stops, especially when they play a super athletic team with big athletic wings. And let's be honest, guys, like, Miami's injury depleted right now. Cleveland's gone. Pack is gone. Like, this is not last year's Final Four Miami team. Not even close. But that all being said, Duke playing extremely well.
Yeah, I will say, this is where I got to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It's the place that you can store your predictions forever. And by using our challenge feature, you can prove you're smarter than your friends. So go download the app. That's VLTED to challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools without the entry fee. I think that this Duke team is a second weekend team. I think they can get to the Sweet 16. I think they have the upside to get to the Final Four. And to me, I mean, Tyler hit on this, right? And you're 100% correct, Tyler. It's what they will be defensively. Are they just good? Are they great? Can they find some way to get some level of rim protection, even if that is just using Ryan Young for 20 minutes a game to be in the way as a 7-footer at the rim? Is it Mark Mitchell that can kind of turn into that junkyard dog, Jaren Jackson-ish guy like that? Because I don't think Filipowski's the defender. I don't think Jared McCain's a guy that you're really going to be worried about defensively. Roach is good. He's fine. Like, you have a couple pieces out there that can guard, but it's not like you look up and down this lineup. Think about the Duke teams that you guys played and how they would play on the line, up the line, how aggressive they were, trying to force turnovers, overplaying everything, jumping past lanes, not letting you run your offense. That's not what this Duke team is. Part of it is no rim protection, but it is what it is. I like what this team's ceiling can be and where they can get to this season. Listen, we got to get to a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about a little bit of insanity that seems to be striking all of the head coaches in college basketball, from Dan Hurley to Rick Pitino to Kenny Payne. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Tyler Hansbrough, Terrence Oglesby. We're live, Sirius XM, Channel 84. We are streaming over on Stadium. Go download that brand new Stadium app. You can interact with us, jump in the chat, and fire away questions. That'll happen on the last call. That's coming up in about 30 minutes. I want to get to a conversation about some stuff that's going on in the coaching ranks right now. We're going to talk about Kenny Payne here in a minute. We're going to talk about Mike Woodson, who got drubbed at home by Nebraska, a team that can't do anything on the road this year. And we definitely have to talk about Dan Hurley trying to knock out or threatening to knock out a Creighton fan after getting 20-pieced on the road in Omaha. But I want to start with Rick Pitino. We all saw what he said the other night, where I think it was an emotional reaction, but he definitely went and kind of crossed the line a little bit and said, like, he doesn't have anyone that can guard certain ways. He called it the most unenjoyable experience of his life coaching this team. And if you know anything about Rick Pitino,
that's a man who's lived too.
Yeah, he's lived the last 15 years. He's had some unenjoyable and, frankly, probably some enjoyable experiences that he maybe regrets. So this is what he had to say tonight. Quote, "My family and my players, outside of breathing air, they're the most important thing in my life. That's why I'm still coaching today. They are the air that I breathe. I love them dearly. I would never want to embarrass them or hurt them." He went on to apologize to his players and basically apologize for what he said the other night in a press conference after a 90-85 win over Georgetown in DC in a game that was attended by probably as many people are currently sitting on this call in this moment. Tyler, have you ever dealt with a coach that was as I guess vociferous in the way that he went after you, especially publicly, as Rick Pitino does and has done throughout his career?
I played for Jim O'Brien, and who actually has some ties with Rick Pitino, and he was a coach that sometimes would test those boundaries. And I'm not a big fan of calling your players out to the media. And Rick Pitino is a heck of a coach, and he knows a lot more about coaching than I ever will know. But I do know that coming from a player standpoint, when he says those things and he calls players out to the media, I'm not the biggest fan of that. But something worked. They got the dub, and maybe he had a talk with a lot of the guys. I don't know the whole dynamic, but I am not a fan of calling or going after players in the media. I think that's something that should be done in the locker room.
Would you accept that apology? What he said when he comes out and tries to make it right?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would be a little hurt inside because some of those things, it seemed like the frustration set in. That was honesty talking. I don't think he thinks this team's a real contender, to be honest with you. And that's not a knock. They're not. He's trying to rebuild a program. And he's frustrated, and he's had a lot of teams. So I would say that's probably what he felt right there. Probably what he feels.
Yep. T.O.?
Ricky P thought it was going to be sweet walking in that Big East now. That Big East is not sweet. That is a hard league. It's a tough league. And it's a league that has enough old guys to slow down your tempo and not turn it over. Like that, it's not an easy league to coach in. A lot of different styles, a lot of different things. Hey, look, as far as the transfer portal, he got who he wanted. But have you seen how all the guys that left, how they're doing? Not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is what Mike Anderson had, the fact that he wasn't able to win is crazy. If Pitino had that roster that he let go, we'd be talking to a different tune right now. But
can we just roll through that real quick? This is what was on the roster last year. Posh Alexander, who is starting and starring and having a big impact on a Butler team that looks like they're going to make the tournament. Dylan Adaiwusu, who is starting and starring and is a really good player for a Seton Hall team that is currently sitting tied for third place in the Big East. AJ Storr, who's having like an all Big Ten caliber season for Wisconsin. He changed that Wisconsin team. He is the best player in that program. David Jones, who about a month ago was an All-American for Memphis. Now, Memphis has kind of fallen off of a cliff, but it is what it is. Omar Stanley has been a great big guy out at Boise State in the Mountain West, which is, by the way, a conference that's going to probably get 6 teams in the NCAA tournament. So it hasn't been the best for for St. John's alums. You're saying 5? No, it's 6. And here's what's going to happen,
I hope
T.O.
so.
UNLV's going to
I
run
love
the
it.
table at home in the
6.
Thomas and Mack Center. They're getting 7. 7. There's a 7 there. I got a pinky.
I think I would love for 6. I would love for 6, but I think 5 is more realistic. Anyway, back to St. John's.
Well,
Sorry.
you're just a hater. I do want to talk about Dan Hurley too, because I think everybody has seen this clip by now where after the loss at Creighton, he's walking off the floor. A fan says something to him. He looks back at the fan. He kind of, says something like, if you come on this floor, and then what you hear is, I will knock you out. Is that crossing the line for a coach to threaten to knock out a student, T.O.?
No, it's not crossing the line. You know why? Me and Tyler have heard a lot worse stuff than that. A lot worse. So the one time that a coach says he's going to knock somebody out, you ought to let the guys come down there and duke it out and see who wins. I guarantee you Danny's getting a piece of whoever's ass he was talking to. Like, if you're going to talk slick to Dan Hurley, come on down there and get your ass whooped. That's all I'm saying about that. Like, you can say anything you want, but the second that Dan Hurley says he's going to whoop somebody, he's in trouble. You guys need to grow up. You need to grow up. I promise what you were saying is worse than that. I promise.
Tyler, you agree?
Tyler, what's the worst thing that anybody's ever said to you? What's the worst thing that you can repeat?
I can't even think. The worst thing, I can't even come up with it off the top of my head. And honestly, T.O., I've blocked a lot of things out. Luckily, later on, I was just like, I'm going to start figuring out how I can block things out. But I will say, this whole Dan Hurley situation, this is absolutely nothing. I'll knock you out. That is nothing. And here's the thing is, I had no problem if that kid would have came down there and Hurley would have whooped his ass. I don't think there's enough of that going on in society. If you're going to run your mouth and just expect no one to take it from you, then there's something wrong. That's too soft. And so for me, I gained a lot of respect from Hurley like this. The fact that we have to talk about it and actually, is this crossing line? Absolutely, it's not.
Well, look, all I'll say is that when you're the coach of the number 1 team in the country, like, you probably shouldn't be caught doing that on camera. Like, that's not the best look in the world. But I also do think that when you are part of the reason why Dan Hurley is as good as he is because he is an absolute lunatic. Competitive to a fault, and when you catch him after an ass whooping like he took and you say the wrong thing to him, he's probably going to react, and that's why he is who he is, and that's why he's as successful as he is, and you're going to have to live with it if you are UConn, as long as he's not jumping the barrier and going after a kid in the stands. Like, I think we're all right. He's just
let him pick one out. Hey, let him pick one out. If somebody's like watching and they see somebody say something slick, be like, hey, let Dan be like, hey, I'm going to go get that one. Bring him. I'm going to whoop him in the tunnel.
Yeah. All right. Look, we got about 2 minutes here, and I'm going to make sure that we yeah, I know. Look, we don't need to put the ideas in Dan Hurley's head. Okay. he's got enough going on in there. We don't need to put ideas in there. I do want to talk about Mike Woodson here. We'll get to probably Kenny Payne in the afters, maybe here in the next segment, but they lost by 15 at home to a Nebraska team that came in 0-7 on the road. Like, the whole thing about this Nebraska team is they can't beat – you don't want them in the tournament because they can't beat anybody on the road. And they come into your building, into Assembly Hall, T.O., which is supposed to be one of the best home court advantages in the country, and blitz you. They were up by 20 at the half. They put 51 points on you in the first half. Like, what – at what point – I don't think that he's anywhere near in trouble because I don't think that they're going to do that to one of their own. But at some point, you got to look at what's happening here and say, this is not working. You would think, right?
I think, he's got a pretty good amount of talent on that roster, but eventually you're going to have to win something. And they're not patient in Bloomington, man. Like, they have some inflated expectations there. And compared to the rest of the league, like, it's kind of a mid-tier job in the Big Ten. And I'm not trying to hate on Indiana because I grew up loving Indiana. It's just a mid-tier
job.
I did it again. I'm sorry.
A mid-tier job?
Yeah, mid-tier. I did it again. I don't know. I'm tired, man. I've done 3 games on every coast and every time zone. So it's a mid-tier job for the whole league, and they don't necessarily have the facilities that the rest has. Like, it's just an okay job. Like, what are your expectations? They're a little bit like NC State, Tyler, in that they won a couple national championships 50 years ago, and they still think they're supposed to be in the mix. Like, they need to be like they need to be like an NCAA tournament team. And then if they're good in the NIT and make a run to the Final Four of the NIT, like, people should be happy. That's what Indiana fans should be happy with. That's where that job's at right now. Sorry to say it, guys. Sorry to say it.
Tyler.
I'm with T. I'm with T.O. on this. A couple shows ago, we were talking about Indiana, and I was laughing because I don't even remember the last time they were good. But the expectations, where they want to be, it's, who's available, and I don't know how you really turn the program around, because it doesn't really have the prestige that Indiana thinks it has. I mean, they really think that they're a blue blood. They're out of the mix right now. I'm with T.
They're not.
100%.
They don't have the funding. They don't have the funding of the rest of the blue bloods. They don't have, the only thing they do have is they do have the fan support of the rest of the blue bloods. They just don't have the funding. And that's the game changer right now.
Yeah, and they really should be better than they are, regardless of all the things that we are saying about them and all the negatives there. Listen, we do have to talk about Nebraska here, because they're very much on the bubble. They're very much in the mix to get an NCAA tournament bid. So is Providence. So are the Mississippi schools. We got a lot to get to on the bubble. It was an exciting night after dark. Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph Fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first-name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph Fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider to level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast. It really is that simple. Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. It is live Wednesday night, Sirius XM Channel 84. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Tyler Hansbrough with me. I have Terrence Oglesby with me. Make sure you download that all-new Stadium app and interact with us during the show. Join the live chat, play interactive games, and get a chance to win certain prizes. We want to hear from you, so download that app now. Join the conversation. You can join us on Last Call on the Stadium app in exactly 12 minutes at the top of the hour. Gentlemen, let's talk about the bubble. Let's talk about Nebraska. Before we talk about what their resume looks like, I feel like this is the kind of team where if they find a way to get in, when you got a guy like Keezy Tominaga and you got some guys that can fill it up offensively, and you got the Wilcher kid and you got the I'm blanking on his name. Who's the big European kid they got? I'll think of it in a second.
Mass.
Rick Mass. There you go. They can really get it going offensively. I feel like this is a team that could be dangerous if they end up as, like, let's just say that they're an 11 or a 12 seed. I don't think you want to see this team.
No, they're good. Plus, they have that lightning rod. How do you pronounce it? Kaisei? Keezy
Tominaga.
Keezy, my main man, Keezy, who I was hating on last summer, but I was hating on him for the right reason. He needed to come back to school. I hated on him out of love. It's kind of like I hate on my kids out of love. And when my son needs help, I hate on him a little bit. Lesson learned. He gets better. Tominaga got better, and he's a lightning rod, and he can score. Here's the thing. I'm happy for those guys. Fred Hoiberg's had a hard time kind of getting that thing going. He now has the right blend of players. Mast is a really nice player, really, really nice player. So much of it, guys, Hoiberg was the guy at Iowa State who jumped in the portal before the portal was the portal, if that makes sense. Like he was taking the cream of the crop, out of the transfer market and making them play together really well. But kind of the problem with that, sometimes it can go awry simply because, personalities don't mesh, or you get too much of one thing and not the other thing, and there's not a good mix. Like I get too much offense, not enough defense, too much defense, not enough scoring. Like it's a guessing game year to year. And now he has the right blend of guys. I feel like they could certainly make the NCAA tournament. John Fanta picked him to make the tournament, I want to say in November or October.
I think Fanta picks them to make the Final Four with New Mexico. That's going to be his national title game. Nebraska and New Mexico. The other one that's really interesting, Tyler, is we saw Chris Beard and Ole Miss Chris Beard and Ole Miss lose at Mississippi State tonight. And both of those teams are in a position where they're kind of right there on the cut line, right? Ole Miss is one of the teams that we have in a playing game on the Fielding the 68 bracket. Mississippi State is a 9 seed right now. I want to talk about Ole Miss for a second because this is a group that has kind of done the thing that T.O. loves to rail against and not schedule anybody in the non-conference and then go out and win a couple games in league play at home, and all of a sudden everyone thinks that they're really, really, really damn good. What do you make of Ole Miss? What do you make of Chris Beard with this program? And if you are 19-7, but you're 6-7 in the SEC, and you have a non-conference schedule that ranks outside the top 300, should you be allowed in the tournament then if you're not going to play anybody? I kind of feel like that's a non-starter for me.
For me, like you look at that team. Oh, sorry, Tyler. I thought you said
no.
T.
No,
so
go ahead, T.O. I'll piggyback off you.
I'm weirding the T's. You got to be more specific with your T's, Dauster. Come on, host. What are we doing? Anyway, they've lost 4 out of their last 5. I'm a fan of Ole Miss. Like I'm a big Matthew Morrell guy. I think he's really good, and I think him playing for Chris Beard is awesome. I think it's worked out really well in his favor. It's a team that shoots the 3 really well. They shoot 38%, 13th in the country. That's pretty good. I am shocked that they're not better defensively, quite frankly. With some of the guys on that roster, the shot blocking they have, the length they have on the interior, the ability to with some of those bodies to get out and pressure, I'm shocked they're not better defensively. But I'm almost not willing to punish them as much because if you look at their schedule, like they tried. If nothing else, they tried. It's just such a crapshoot when it comes to scheduling sometimes. Like unless it's just blatantly intentional, like some of these other teams that we've talked about here.
How?
NC State made the tournament last year, brought in a bunch of people, and you schedule that game right after they make the tournament, so you're assuming they'll make the tournament again. Memphis started out great this season, and then they floundered. They have talent. They're old. They floundered. They got hurt. They had some guys get hurt. UCF, everybody's talking about how good the Big 12 is. I mean, do you not get credit for doing that? I mean, you can't say Big 12 is great. Every team in the Big 12 is the greatest team to ever play, and then not give the team that beats them credit. I'm hating right now.
T.O.
100% I'm hating. 100%. Can't have one and not the other. Can't have
They scheduled Temple, NC State, Memphis, UCF, and Cal, and you're out here talking about how they tried to put together a good schedule. No. Come on, man.
It's a better non-conference schedule than Iowa State.
They'll comment on that one.
Yeah, full comment. No. You can't not do that. See, that goes back to you can't do one without the other. That's my whole argument.
I think the difference is what Iowa State has actually done in league play is much more impressive. Like they got Kansas and Houston at home.
What if?
And what if and Ole Miss has gotten Florida at home? They've lost 4 of their last 5. The only win they have in that stretch is a 3-point win at home over a Missouri team that hasn't won a single damn game in the SEC this year. And now they get South Carolina at Alabama, and they still have to go to Georgia and get Texas A&M. I don't know.
What if?
What
if the SEC is actually a better league than the Big 12? What if?
What if? What
Nobody
if
in
I'm
the
an
Big
actually
12 played. We have no idea how to gauge the Big 12 outside of Kansas.
what if
We have no.
what if I'm actually a better basketball player than you? You've never
not
seen me play anybody. You've never seen me play
I know,
anybody, so there's
but
no way that you
I
can
know you
know.
got kicked off your team like 5 times. Like
It
there's
had
no
nothing to do with
way.
basketball ability. It was all because of
Yeah, hey,
this.
I've seen a
Okay.
lot of people.
It was
Hey,
all because of
I've
this.
seen a lot of people do some shit that ain't good, and they got to stay on the team because they were good basketball players. Are you better than your problems? Apparently, Rob Dauster was better than his problems.
No, hey,
You know what
look, I
that?
definitely was
You know what
not.
that leaves me?
That is,
You know,
I can confirm that I was not better than my problems.
hey, look,
I was
that
good enough to
leaves me
know I wasn't
nice.
very good. I was good enough to know how good I wasn't. Tyler, I hate to do this to you since I've made you talk about all 3 of your favorite teams tonight, but the one guy that I do know that you are a huge fan of is Wes Miller. They lost a tough one at home to Oklahoma State tonight. That's now 3 out of 4 that they've lost, and it drops them to 5-8 in the Big 12. They're in every game. They don't get blown out. They have had a little bit of trouble figuring out how to win close ones, and now they get the pleasure of going on the road to TCU and Houston in a 4-day stretch. This is a really, really important 2-game swing here for your Bearcats and your guy, Wes Miller.
Yeah, definitely. And I look at their games coming up. They're going to have 3 quad 1 win opportunities, and so to me, really, it comes down to how they're going to handle these upcoming games. But I do like Cincinnati. Obviously Wes Miller, a good buddy of mine, but they play hard. And the Victor Locken kid, for them, is one of the better players, one of the better bigs, I think, in the Big 12. And also, I'm just going to say this. The Big 12 is a much better conference in basketball than the SEC this year. It's not even close, in my opinion. I actually don't even think the SEC is going to have one team in the Sweet 16. But that's my opinion. So Cincinnati will have their opportunities. We'll see if they capitalize.
All right, we got a minute left here. Let's quickly get through it. Toast of the night. T.O., you got 15 seconds. Who are you cheersing to on this night of college basketball?
I can't remember. I'm cheersing to Arkansas State for leaving me a package of goodies whenever I got here. How's that? Cheers to them.
All right. Fair enough. Tyler, who you got?
I'm going to go Puff Johnson. He had a big steal late in the game, got the layup to just put it to Illinois. So here's old Puff. Tar Heel, too.
All right. Colorado State, by the way, if you guys aren't watching this, get the CBS Sports Network on your second screen. 62-61. They just hit a huge 3. Patrick Cartier hit a huge 3 to put them up 62-61, 43 seconds left. A thriller in the pit. T.O. almost pooped his pants in the pit one time. My cheers of the night is going to go out to George Mason. For the first time in the history of the George Mason program, they beat a ranked team in their own building, 71-67 tonight. They beat number 16 Dayton, who Dayton, by the way, is now 21-5 on the season. They're having an unbelievable year. But cheers go out to George Mason and Tony Skinn. That's a hell of a win for that program that I think is trending up. So this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. For Rob, for myself, for Tyler Hansbrough, for Terrence Oglesby. We're heading over to Last Call right now on the Stadium app. Make sure you go download it, hang out with us. We're going to answer your questions in the chat right now after dark.